player of the year. So Nolan's got a really interesting one for this. I didn't see it coming. Do you want to share who your midseason defensive player of the year has been so far?
I will. Before I jump into my player, because I don't want to just everyone off the bat.
Yeah, no, explain yourself, sure.
Brief explanation. So for all those statistical analytical people watching, there's a statistic called the Raptor statistic. What the Raptor is a brief explanation, is it's a plus-minus statistic that measures the number of points a player contributes to his team, offense and defense, per 100 possessions. So an example is if a player has a Raptor rating of plus 2.1 on offense, he boosts his team performance by 2.1 points over 100 possessions. Vice versa, if he has a defensive Raptor of plus 3.4, he improves his team defensive performance by 3.4 points over 100 possessions. That's a brief explanation. So I was doing some statistical looking at defensive Raptor, or just Raptor in general, and I looked at this anomaly to me, because this player so few even know of. At the top of the Raptor statistic for defensive,
who was there, Nolan?
It was 7.9 rating.
Wow, that's pretty high.
Jakob Poeltl.
Okay.
Some may not even know who this guy is. Not a big
deal. Spurs, and he's the center for those.
A 7-footer center on the Spurs, used to play for the Raptors, but I gotta say, I haven't had too much of a sample size, but after I seen the statistic, I watched the Spurs last night, and this guy might have one of the best IQs out of a 7-footer on defense that I've seen. One thing I'll say is, if you watch his highlights, he's a player where he gets a lot of blocks, where he holds onto the ball and passes out, not just a block and then they stay with the ball.
Knocks it out of bounds or something. Like, they retain possession, which is, it's not flashy. It's not going to, people aren't going to rave about it, but it's the right basketball play.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, too. This is strictly defense, because I say one thing why people don't really know too much about Jakob Poeltl. On the offensive end, he really is just a floater, a dunk every now and then. And also, he needs to fix his free throws. He's shooting 30% from the free throw line.
That's brutal.
That is abysmal. It is terrible. However, there are obviously big-name defenders, but I'm putting this guy's name in the conversation because he deserves to be so. He has one of the highest IQs of any defensive player, makes a lot of highlights, and is very underknown, or not many people know him. So I wanted to start off with throwing his name in the ring. Jakob Poeltl, remember the name. Go watch some Spurs basketball. But you might be surprised to hear that, Blake. What are your thoughts on this guy, Jakob Poeltl? What do you know about him?
So, like you said, high IQ. I haven't seen him play very much, but he definitely the only thing, or I think the biggest argument you would have for Poeltl would be that he lifts up the Spurs defense so much more than other players lift up their defense. And that's kind of what the Raptor rating or analytical point is trying to show. And I think that's a really big or strong argument when you look at Marc Gasol winning the award when he did with the Grizzlies. Is you could definitely say LeBron was the better athlete. He had insane stats. He was a beast on Miami. I think it was 2013 or 2012 when Marc Gasol won it. But he mainly won that because their team defense was so good. If the Spurs can play good defense and keep playing better and maybe, say, play top 3 defense, that would boost his argument and make it a lot stronger if he is the heaviest contributor on the best defensive team. Now, they have a little ways to go to get there, but there is an argument to be made for that.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think it's a crazy anomaly that not many people know who this guy is, and he's really making a difference for the Spurs. However, outside of Poeltl, do you have any other nominations in this category, Blake?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a pretty obvious one here, and that's Ben Simmons. So we know he can guard pretty much any position exceptionally well, 1 to 5, and you can't find that with many players. You could maybe say Giannis, or I think Anthony Davis is the other guy that comes to my mind. I feel like voter fatigue, Giannis isn't really going to get any awards. Anthony Davis has been out, and maybe Ben Simmons can't lock down a 5, but if he gets switched onto one, it's not where he's, Muggsy Bogues and the dude just can floater it over him really easily or hook shot. So he's competitive in that respect. And second off, and this isn't really necessarily defense, but it's defense to offense. This dude's a beast in transition. And I think it's one of I think it's should count more towards his defense. The fact that if he does get a steal, if he does get a block, if he gets a long rebound, he can turn it up and really help their offense in a way that not many other players can do. What are your thoughts on Ben Simmons maybe winning the Defense Player of the Year award?
I think totally a fair nomination. I think he's right in the conversation, especially with AD out, and I think Giannis motor fatigue or whatnot. The one thing I wish is, as talented as Ben Simmons is, sometimes when I watch Sixers, it doesn't look like he's exerting full effort. So he's such a good player, especially on defense. And he doesn't really need to exert full effort. But one guy in terms of effort that I just personally love is Lou Dort. If people know who that is.
Yeah, no, he's awesome.
I look at Lou Dort's energy. If Ben Simmons played like that, with just like a little bit more kind of swagger, a little bit more energy, I think he would be hands down the best defender in the league. So as good as he is, and I think he very well could win Defensive Player of the Year. I wish I maybe at some time saw a little bit more energy, but that's basically my only downside to him as a defensive player.
And maybe it's because he does have to, be the point guard, be the ball handler, and he doesn't want to lose all of his energy on the defensive end when he knows he has to play make for others and himself. But yeah, he's really, really good on defense. I think athletically, I know everyone always compared him to LeBron, when he was coming into the league, and that's probably not the most fair comparison to him just because of the expectations there. But athletically speaking, I mean, you're not going to find many combinations of strength, speed, and just like agility, quickness as you will with Ben Simmons.
Definitely. And I think, that he usually is guarding guards or forwards, though. However, a guy who's a little bit bigger that we could talk about as the last guy in this conversation is the Frenchman, Rudy Gobert.
Frenchie, yeah.
Your thoughts on the Frenchman?
Yeah. So he's an insanely good defender in the post. He gets tons of blocks. It's 7 feet, and he doesn't move very easily. I am a little hesitant to give him the award, though. And I think he has one major flaw that these other guys really – I mean, I guess Poetl would kind of have it too, but we've seen him kind of get abused in the playoffs by James Harden with pick and rolls. And when he is playing drop coverage and he can't step up just due to not being quick enough, I think that's a really big hindrance on his game where he can almost get played off the court because he can't guard Harden. But other guys like Simmons or even Giannis, that does not happen to them. And I really think that's tough for Rudy because, how good he actually is in the post and getting blocks. And, he's the anchor of one of the best defenses on the number one team in the West. That is huge, but that is one flaw that I see with him that kind of makes me really hesitant to say he should win it because he is deserving. He really is.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that take, and I think comparing him to someone like Simmons, when you think about that, is obviously Gobert is an elite paint protector, but can you give Defensive Player of the Year to someone who can't guard guards or like the whole positions? Whereas Giannis won last year, correct? And Giannis, maybe he could still get a little bit off his footing when he goes on like some flashy guards like Steph or Dame, but nowhere near to Gobert's extent. So I think that's a very good point in the sense that as much of a paint protector as Gobert is, I think he's going to have to get better at his switching off pick and rolls and guarding guards and just contesting them a little bit better because I think you're right on in the point where if a flashy guard switches on to Gobert has a high likelihood of just getting his ankles broken or looking pretty silly on those plays. Great point.
I mean, and it's a lot to ask of a 7-footer who's already elite in the post, right? Like, we're telling him, you're already one of the best at doing this, but you now have to go out and guard the James Hardens and those guys. So it's a little unfair in that sense. And then one other guy, too, like, we've seen Draymond Green in the past do that, like, decently well, where he won't get completely destroyed. That's why I've always thought he's been one of the most deserving. This year is different. But, yeah, and I mean, just like seeing the Rockets and Jazz play over the years or in the past, when James Harden would do that, he would really make it tough on Rudy Gobert, just how good he is in the pick and roll game.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think all those guys deservedly so. And
yeah.
So it's for all you watching, I'm going to be watching myself Jakob Poeltl. Remember the name. I'm gonna be watching.
I'll make sure to check in with the Spurs a little more and watch him clamp up some big men then.
Let's see how he does. We'll see.
Awesome. And then that's going to wrap this episode. We're going to cut these clips up, release them into their own clips so you can watch them there. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next time.